Welcome to SQE1 Preparation, Criminal Practice. When must an identification procedure be carried out? By Street Lawyer, helping you to pass first time. The FLK2 Criminal Law and Practice states this. You need to know about the identification procedures, when an identification procedure must be held, the different types of identification procedure, and the procedure for carrying out an identification procedure, PACE 1984 Code D. Now I'm covering identification procedure over 3 classes. In this class, class 1, we're going to consider when must an identification procedure be carried out, explain why the police use identification procedure in an eyewitness investigation case, and outline when an identification procedure must be carried out, need not be held, i.e. serves no useful purpose, or may be held if it serves a useful purpose. In the other 2 classes, class 2, we're going to look at the 4 types of identification procedure, and in class 3, we're going to look at suspect rights and the identification procedure. So please watch all the classes in the identification procedure to get a really good understanding of this topic. By way of an SQE1 exam tip, SBAQs may centre on when an ID procedure must be held, when would an ID procedure not be held, when an ID procedure may be held, that is, serves a useful purpose, which type of ID procedures should be held, identifying the rights of a suspect are during an ID procedure, identifying possible breaches of an ID procedure, and knowing the consequences of a breach of an identification procedure. Now look at these test your knowledge questions. Test your knowledge question 1 is about you representing Sarah, who has been arrested for a common assault at a nightclub. Tony, the victim, provided the police with a description of the person who assaulted him and states that he believes he would be able to identify the person again. There were no other witnesses to the assault and no CCTV evidence of it. Will the police now be required to hold an identification procedure? Pause the video and look at options A, B, C, D, and E and identify which one you think is the right answer. And we'll be returning back to this question at the end of the class. Now look at this test your knowledge question. This is actually from the SQE sample. A burglary takes place at a jewellery shop in the early hours of the morning. The police were called to the incident by the manager of a bar which is situated opposite the jewellery shop 10 metres away. The manager of the bar viewed the burglary via the bar's closed circuit television CCTV system. However, no recording of the burglary is available because the CCTV system was faulty. The manager gave a statement to the police indicating that despite the poor street lighting, he recognised the offender as a man who used to work in the bar until 1 year ago. He names the man to the police. The man who has previous convictions for burglary is arrested by the police. In his police interview under caution, the man agrees that he used to work in the bar but denies that he committed the burglary. The police are considering whether to hold an identification procedure. The question is would an identification procedure serve a useful purpose in this case? Now look at the options A, B, C, D, and E. And again, pause the video, answer the question, and again, we return to this question at the end of the class. Question: why are ID procedures used by the police in an eyewitness investigation case? Well, this is answered by Police Code D, which states, in this code, identification by an eyewitness arises when a witness who has seen the offender committing the crime and is given an opportunity to identify a person suspected of involvement in the offence in a video identification parade, or similar procedure. These eyewitness identification procedures, which are in Part A of Section 3 below, are designed to test the eyewitness's ability to identify the suspect as the person they saw on a previous occasion and provide against mistaken identification. That's in Code D, paragraph 1.2. We now move to some really important questions. Question: when must an ID procedure be held? Code D paragraph 3.12 states this: if before any identification procedure set out in paragraph 3.5 to 3.10 has been held, A, an eyewitness has identified a suspect or purported to identify them, or B, there is an eyewitness available who expresses an ability to identify the suspect, or C, there is a reasonable chance of an eyewitness being able to identify the suspect, and the eyewitness in A to C has not been given an opportunity to identify the suspect in any of the procedures set out in paragraphs 3.5 to 3.10, then an identification procedure shall be held if the suspect disputes being the person the eyewitness claims to have seen on a previous occasion. Unless, this is another question, when would an ID procedure not be held? And the code continues and says, unless it is not practicable to hold any such procedure, or any such procedure would serve no useful purpose in proving or disproving whether the suspect was involved in committing the offence. For example, now two examples are given. Now please pay careful attention to these two examples, where the suspect admits being at the scene of the crime and gives an account of what took place, and the eyewitness does not see anything which contradicts that, or when it is not disputed that the suspect is already known to the eyewitness who claims to have recognized them when seeing them commit the crime, and that's in code D. And another really important question, what circumstances may an ID procedure be held? An eyewitness identification procedure may also be held if the officer in charge of the investigation, after consultation with the identification officer, considers it would be useful. Code D paragraph 3.13. For example, in the circumstances where the witness says they recognize the suspect at the scene, but the suspect disputes presence at the scene of the incident, and the suspect disputes knowing the witness. So when we now return to the test your knowledge questions, you should be in a position to answer these questions correctly. Pause the slide. Check your answer with the next slide. The answer is option D is the best answer. Again, pause the slide. Read the answer for yourself. Now consider this test your knowledge question from the sample SQE. Pause the slide and check your answer. Remember, watch all the videos in the SQE Prep Criminal Practice series, especially the two other classes on identification procedures, the 4 types of identification procedures, and the suspect's rights at the identification procedure. Understand the functioning legal knowledge being examined by reading the SRA website for yourself. Revise from a really good SQE book, attend and participate in class, prepare Q&A flashcards, practice as many SBAQs as possible, subscribe to Community Legal Education on YouTube, and put your notification on so you don't miss out on more SQE prep videos. Hope you found this class useful. See you in the next class, and thank you for watching.